What's going on, people, and welcome to another top 10. This one has been in the pipeline for a few weeks since it got voted for in the community tab. Appreciate everyone that voted on it, and it is top 10 all-time Everton players, my personal top 10. As I said, it's been in the pipeline to do for a while. It's just been a bit busy with stuff going on, but it is here today. Top 10 all-time Everton players. Let's get into it. At number 10, I've gone with Sylvain Distin. Centre-back, played for Man City before all the money came in and played a lot of time at Everton as well. I just remember watching him a lot in the Premier League growing up, and he was just a solid defender. Not world-class, I wouldn't say, but I would say that he was probably above average in the league at times, and he was a very consistent performer. It was very rare that he was terrible. Most games he'd be probably an 8 out of 10, 7 out of 10. So I had to include him on this list. One that I don't think really gets spoken about, but I kind of understand why. But at the same time, he's one of them ones that, for me, I remember watching a lot when I was growing up. And like I said, most games, 7, 8 out of 10s. And he was a very consistent performer for whatever club he was at. So Sylvain Distin, number 10. Number 9, Steven Pienaar. A baller. He had a bit of pace about him. He had very quick feet in terms of dribbling ability. Very good in tight areas and tight spaces. Low centre of gravity. And a player from South Africa that you don't really get a lot from that area of the world that have the ability he had. A very exciting player to watch. You like the pace, as I said, quick feet, good in tight spaces, tight areas. He scored a fair amount of goals as well. And he was just a threat for whatever team he was in terms of what he offered. Very technical player, and one that, yeah, as I said, a baller. So Pienaar, number 9. In at number 8, a ball up front in terms of a ball, ferocious, Yakubu. Probably not as great for his country at times, but for his clubs, Everton, Blackburn, Middlesbrough, I remember him a lot growing up, scoring a lot of goals for whatever club he was at. And he was just a ball, as I said. Like, he looked like probably like a weightlifter up front. Not the tallest, quite a small guy in terms of height, but rock solid in terms of like muscles and just you want to try and knock him off the ball, you're going to have a hard time. Tough to play against. He was quite quick as well for someone how he was built. And as I said, he scored a fair few amount of goals. And I remember at Everton getting a lot. And all the clubs he was at, to be honest. But one that I remember a lot for Everton, Yakubu, has to make the list. Number 8. In at number 7, one that's not glamorous at all. I don't think a lot of people would. Well, I think Everton fans would, but I don't know if a lot of people, if they were going to do a list of their Everton players, he would be in it. But for me, you have to respect what he did when he went there after so many years at the other club and the experience he offered, and that is Phil Neville. Obviously spent most of his career at Manchester United as a role player, utility player. And then he went to Everton and became the captain, featured week in, week out, and was one of their best consistent performers. I believe he helped them get in Europe as well. And like I said, led by example and a fantastic leader and experience on the pitch for them. Tough, knows the game in and out. He is now a manager. And I think very underrated in what he did, and like at the end of his career pretty much as well, that he did it for a few years. So very good leader on the pitch for Everton, took that captaincy role, and I think he improved them at the time. So Phil Neville, number 7. Number 6, another one that's not glamorous, but he was effective in what he did, and he didn't try to do a lot of other things outside of what he was good at, and that was Fellaini. Marouane Fellaini. I know a lot of people hate him, but if you're going to put a ball into the box in terms of throw-ins, corners, free kicks, and you want someone to head it and get their head on it, he was your man. The amount of headers I saw him score, just because of putting himself about, making himself a nuisance and bullying defenders, Fellaini was your man. Strong, tall, not quick, but strong. He had very good technique for someone his size, I believe. I think his technique was always underrated. And he was effective. Didn't always work out, especially at United for him, but at Everton, he was one of their main threats for a number of years. So have to put some respect on him. Fellaini, number 6. Number 5, a guy that is smashing it as a manager at the moment, and one that I don't think a lot of people would have predicted he's doing as well as he would have. It started off rocky for him, but he is really firing on all cylinders at the moment, and that is Mikel Arteta. I loved him as a player. I didn't think he would go into management watching him as a player, but I'm pleasantly surprised by what he's doing. And as a footballer, I loved watching him. He had a mixture of what you see him like as a manager in terms of that ferociousness and aggressiveness and passion, but he also had the technique and the ability. Went on to captain Arsenal before he retired, but I remember him more. I think he was more in his prime at Everton, applied his trade better at Everton, scored some thunderbolts for Everton as well, but could play deeper, and he could attack and get in the box and score goals. So technique was always underrated as well. But yeah, I think a very underrated player in Premier League history for what he did. Alright, he didn't win a ton of things, trophies and that, but I think a character, leader, and what he could offer in the midfield, I think went underrated. So Mikel Arteta, number 5. Number 4, Thomas Rydzinski. A guy that's one of my personal favourites. Don't always hear him get spoken about, but very small guy, but full of pace, and he could score you a lot of goals in a team at the time with Everton that weren't big dogs, they weren't big hitters, but his goals helped them reach and positions in the table to get them into like top 10 of the league and stuff. If it weren't for his goals at the time, they wouldn't have done it. So I think he was very underrated for what he did. And I just remember him scoring a lot of goals when I was younger and always popping up and being a threat. So Thomas Rydzinski, number 4. Number 3, if you want a free kick, you want a penalty, you want a corner, Mr. Consistent, Leighton Baines. Went on to captain Everton before he retired, played for England as well, and I remember him from Wigan as well before Everton. But going to Everton, I think he had a good career there. He was hardly ever injured for them for a good amount of years. Did start picking up injuries, but for a good few years there, he was a good servant in terms of consistency, games played, free kicks, set pieces. Like, he would deliver on a consistent basis. And as I said, it got him into the England team, so has to make the list. Number 3, Leighton Baines. Number 2, could have easily been number 1. Another guy that I remember scoring a ton of goals from a position that you wouldn't expect them to. And he was a vital player for his country as well. Didn't really reach a lot of heights with his country because they're not big hitters. And that is Australia, little clue there. And his celebration of the boxing in the corner, another clue there. It's Tim Cahill. In that team with Fellaini, I think he played with Arteta as well. But him and Fellaini at the time for Everton were their main guys to go to, especially if you want aerial threat in the box. He did it for so many years for Everton that he might as well have been a striker up front, the number 9, because the amount of goals he scored with his head. And he wasn't even that tall, but the jump and leap he had on him for a guy his size was brilliant. And the amount of goals he got from that, it's no mistake, because he was a threat. He was strong for someone his size as well. And he looked like he could handle himself with the boxing skills that he used to show off with the celebrations. So, yeah, great player. One that's very underrated in the history of Everton and the Premier League, to be honest. If you want a threat in the box, he was that, especially in the air. And that is Tim Cahill, number 2. And at number 1, couldn't have anyone else. What he did coming through the youth ranks, even at youth level before he reached the first team, he was getting spoken about. What he did for England and the confidence he had at such a young age. He was a man in a boy's body. And he was even built like a man as a youngster because he was just bulky, strong, confidence galore, felt he was the best player in the world at such a young age, and probably was at times. And the goal he scored in his debut against Arsenal, against Seaman, against Sol Campbell, Wayne Rooney. I couldn't have anyone else at number 1. Obviously, went there before he retired as well to his second stint at the club. And did okay, I thought. I think it revitalised him before he retired. So, yeah, unbelievable things he did in his career. And it's a shame for some of the injuries he got because he would have done even more, I think. One of our main guys at the Euros at that time, at such a young age, the confidence he had. But that goal against Arsenal at a time where Arsenal were the top dogs, he comes on, it doesn't affect him. He scores a wonderful goal and introduces himself on the biggest stage at such a young age. And the confidence was there already. Unbelievable. And I don't think a lot of players have matched what he's done at such a young age as well. So, Wayne Rooney, number one. Has to be number one. There couldn't be anyone else on this list for me to make number one. So shout out to everyone that's supporting. Shout out to everyone that's voting in the community tab when I put polls up. I think I've got 2 teams left to do. I think it was AC Milan and Inter Milan. So I'll get into that soon. But at least one more team anyway. I can't remember if I've done AC Milan. Don't believe I've done Inter yet. So, but at least one more team, possibly 2 for the top 10s. There'll be another top 10 for NBA content coming soon as well. And also Premier League predictions will continue. The match previews and match recaps for the United games as well will be coming. Appreciate everyone's support, guys. If you haven't subscribed already, make sure you do, and the notifications are on. The target is 2,000 subscribers by the 1st of December, but let's reach it in November if we can, guys. Have a great day, and I'll see you soon.